So we have an interesting story about Apple and their number one product, the iPhone. So it's been long suspected by everyone that Apple deliberately slows down the older models of their phones so that people who who own the older versions of the phone buy the newer versions when it comes out. But now it's been confirmed. I think it was yesterday or the day before. The story was confirmed by somebody that Apple does actually slow down the older models of their phones in the new updates. Apple put out a statement regarding the situation, and I'm going to read that to you. I'm going to come back, break it down, and I'll tell you what I think about the story. Apple says, quote, "Our goal is to deliver the best experience for our customers, which includes overall performance and prolonging the life of their devices. Lithium-ion batteries become less capable of supplying peak current demands when in cold conditions, have a low battery charge, or as they age over time, which can result in the device unexpectedly shutting down to protect its electronic components. Last year, we released a feature for iPhone 6, iPhone 6s, and iPhone SE to smooth out the instantaneous peaks only when needed to prevent the device from unexpectedly shutting down during these conditions. We've now extended that feature to iPhone 7 with iOS 11.2 and plan to add support for other products in the future." Okay, so I'm going to tell you what to do with that statement that Apple released today, or yesterday, excuse me. Take that shit and throw it in the garbage, because I guarantee you it was just all bullshit. They were lying. First of all, they try to spin it as it's something that they just started doing. No, they didn't just started doing this because people have been complaining about this forever. I've never had an iPhone, but everybody around me obnoxiously does own an iPhone and talk about it constantly. I'm personally more of a fan of Samsung Galaxies, but that's besides the point. So people have said for a while, anytime Apple comes out with a new iPhone and they send an update, my phone slows down. Anytime I update my phone slows down. And it gets to the point where some people are like, I don't even update my phone because I know it's going to slow down. So, and this has been going on for a while. It's not just with the iPhone 6 or the iPhone 7 like they alluded to in the statement. In 2014, there was a Harvard study and a following New York Times article that basically came to the same conclusion. So they said that I don't have the exact details of the study because it was a while ago, but they said that they noticed in the study that when you update an older iPhone, it'll slow down, and it's noticeable the way that it slows down and how much it slows down. So, and they tried, after they changed the batteries, they noticed that's probably what it was. The New York Times article, yeah, same thing. So more than that, every single time they update the phones, or they send out a update, they get thousands, if not millions, of comments from customers complaining about the updates, saying, "Hey, my phone's slowing down. I've seen it on Twitter. They do it on Facebook, Instagram, wherever. The public always comments the same thing every time there's an app update. So this isn't anything new. It's not something new that we're just now learning about. And even it goes even farther than just the reported comments, because like I said earlier, there are millions of people. Everybody who's ever owned an iPhone, they know this is true. Because the second a new phone comes out, the old phone slows down, damn near impossible to use, and then they just regret updating it, and they eventually they just stop updating the phone so that it doesn't just shut down. So yeah, it's basically a fact. It's a fact. It's a fact that they've been doing this for a while. Everybody knows they've been doing this for a while. Everybody suspected it. Everybody's been calling them out for it. So among the public, the broad public, especially iPhone owners, they know this is true. But in the media, they're trying to pretend like, oh, I don't know, maybe Apple's telling the truth here, and maybe they're just doing this to help protect consumers' phones and the batteries or whatever. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. If that was true, if they were doing this update or they added this feature in the update to protect the phones, why keep it so secret? Why not just tell people? Because like I said, people have been noticing this for a while. So if it was a legitimate fix to a problem, why not just lay it out there that, hey, when we put out a new phone, we're going to, and then you get an update on your phone, we're going to slow your phone down. Because the battery's gonna die or whatever it is, whatever their excuse is. So they didn't do that. Instead, they chose to lie to people. They lied to everyone who has ever bought an iPhone and told and by omitting that fact, by leaving that part out and just allowing them to assume that hey, I bought this phone at this date, and I expect it to work the same or for a while, to operate the same for a while. It should be able to. I just spent $800 on a phone. It should be able to work for more than a year. That's what people think, and it's just a coincidence that the way that they did handle it, the way that they did do it by keeping it secret. They might have made billions of dollars doing that. Millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars doing that. So I don't think it was just a recent thing, and I don't think it was only to protect consumers' phones, or else they would have disclosed it. So I'm not a legal expert, nor do I claim to be, but what I can do is read basic legal definitions and give and come to my own conclusions. And the legal definition of fraud is exactly what this is. This is fraud. This is fraud. They defrauded their customers, anybody who purchases iPhones. And I have the legal definition for you right here. It's, quote, wrongful or criminal deception intended to result in financial or personal gain. That is exactly what the situation is. That is literally exactly what Apple just did. They intentionally left out the information of what's going to happen in the updates so that they can get financial gains. Because if they did release that, then maybe some people wouldn't buy the iPhone. Maybe they wouldn't buy the iPhone. Maybe they'll buy a Galaxy. Maybe they'll buy some other kind of Android. But maybe they wouldn't be like, hey, I don't want to spend $800 on a phone, and the second they come out with an update next year, the shit it's basically useless. It's a paperweight. Maybe I shouldn't do that. Maybe I should get a Galaxy, or maybe I should get another Android. So they intentionally left that part out so that they can gain financially from it. And like I just read in the definition of fraud, that is fraud. So This is just one of the many ways that it just proves how corporations and the mega rich can fuck over the working class and the middle class any way they want. They'll get away with it every fucking time because the system is so corrupt that it isn't even considered to be a criminal case. I don't even I bet you the fucking moon that the Attorney General isn't trying to come up with an investigation to look into what Apple is doing and if they've been defrauding their customers, and if they have been defrauding their customers, then possibly bringing up a criminal case against them. I guarantee you the Justice Department and the Attorney General isn't even considering that. Not for a fucking second they're considering that. And honestly, they should be. They should be. Because it's like, there is no bottom of the barrel. The corporations and the mega rich feel like they need to get every fucking dime, every penny from the middle class and the working class just to pad their own wallets. Even though they're already mega rich, more rich than have more money than anybody would see in their lifetimes. Apple's one of the richest corporations on the fucking planet. But yet they feel like they need to pull one over on their customers by slowing down their phones to make them spend $800 again on a new phone and do this shit over again. Even though they have so much money, they feel like we need just that little bit of more money. We need that little bit more amount of money to pad our bottom lines. And it's so egregious that, again, like I said, it's targeted at the middle class and the working class and the poor. And now there'll be some people who will say that, hey, maybe if you're working class or you're poor, maybe you shouldn't buy iPhone. That's a stupid argument. And anyway, the Apple's ad campaigns are targeted at the working class and the middle class and the poor. They aren't putting up ads in corporate boardrooms for millionaires and billionaires to see and purchase their phones. No, they're putting their ads online on YouTube. They put their ads on Facebook, on Twitter. They put their ads on TV where working class and middle class people could see it. So they are specifically targeting people of lower income, and this is a fact that should be stated to point out how egregious this is, how low this is. Half the country's basically living in poverty already. Half the households in this country make $30,000 a year or less. So you have to take care of a wife, presumably husband, kids, mortgages, bills, utilities, groceries, your student loan debt, medical bills. All that you have to take care of $30,000 a year or less. Half the country makes $30,000 a year or less. Half the country, in the richest country on the face of the earth in the history of the planet, half the country is basically living in poverty. And then Apple thinks, hey, let me see. I already have them buying my $800 phone. They're already going to do it. So now let me see how much more money I can get out of them by defrauding them and ripping them off. Because that's what this is. It's a fucking scam. They're crooks and this is a scam. And for anyone to think, some people might say, hey, why are you being so negative? Maybe it was just unintended and they didn't mean to and it was just a one-time thing, it's an accident. Maybe that's what it is. If you think that, then you just do not understand who these people are, who these corporations are. And so I'll have a couple more details to show you who Apple is and to show you that this isn't just some accident. Oh, they just accidentally slow down people's phones and oops, they made billions of dollars doing it. That's not an accident. They intended to do it, and I'm going to show you right now. So this year alone, they spent $5.7 million on lobbying politicians to pass laws that benefit them, to do favors for Apple, to prioritize certain things that Apple wants done. So they spent $5.7 million on lobbying, which is basically bribing politicians. They've spent $5.7 million on bribing politicians since the beginning of the year. Guess what the number one issue they were lobbying politicians on in DC. Number one issue they were lobbying politicians on: taxes. Taxes. So they most of the money they spent was to get corporate tax rates cut so that Apple can pay even less than they already do. They barely pay any taxes. They don't pay their fair share of taxes, so even with that fact, they want to cut the corporate tax rate, and currently before the ridiculous tax plan, the corporate tax rate was 35%, and corporation CEOs and Republicans, they like to put out this. They have this phony ass outrage about the corporate tax rate, and it's all a lie. It's a lie because they say it's the highest corporate tax rate on the world, and yes, on paper, 35% is the highest corporate tax rate in the world. But you know what? They don't pay that. Corporations in the U.S. do not pay that. They do not pay that because they bribe politicians to put in all kinds of loopholes, and deductions offshore in these accounts in the Caymans, where they end up paying damn near no actually sometimes they end up paying no taxes on the money. So they have all the money there and they pay no taxes. And Apple has $250 billion offshore doing that shit. $250 billion. That is just such that is fucking ridiculous. And some people make the argument, I don't subscribe to this logic, but some people make the argument, hey, them trying to get more money for themselves, them trying to enrich themselves to the maximum extent, how is that a bad thing? These are loopholes that are there. These are deductions that they can take. So how are you mad at them for taking it? One, it's not like these things were just naturally there. No. These people have bribed and corrupted the system to make these things happen, to make it so that these things do exist. These loopholes, these gigantic loopholes and deductions only exclusively for the mega rich. They bribed and corrupted the system to make that happen. So it's that, and on top of that, there's that logic is true to a certain extent, but when you extrapolate that out, it stops making sense, because there's a limited amount of money on the planet. There's a finite amount of money. So if the 1% has all the fucking money, or 99% of the money, and everybody else is fighting over that 1%, then yes, it's a problem that they're that rich, that they have that much money. I'm not against people just having more money than me. I'm not against, if you're a millionaire, okay, what am I mad at you for having millions of dollars? Okay, no, I'm not. But when you start to, your greed starts to take hold and you're starting to harm people, that's when it's an issue. So, and there's a more nefarious angle to this whole situation, because it isn't just that they're making the most possible money for themselves. What they're doing is taking money away from other people that need it. Now, with the same principles apply with cutting taxes for the rich and corporations and allowing them to use offshore tax havens to avoid taxes, right? That money has to come from one or two places. Either you are going to, because that money is supposed to go to the government. That money is supposed to be used to fund certain programs that are necessary for people. It is supposed to be used to programs that are necessary for people to survive. I don't know, like food stamps, housing assistance, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, disability, unemployment, all those things like that is where this money's supposed to go to. This is where tax money goes to fund things like that, to fund roads and bridges, and to fund the military and things like that. That's where tax money goes to. So when that money is no longer there because they decided to give a gigantic tax cut to the rich or to let them offshore all the money, what's going to happen is the cretins in the Republican Party, these disgusting, immoral people, these people have no goddamn shame. What they're going to do is, and this is the answer to everything. This is their answer to every damn question. Well, hey man, I know you gotta feed your kids, and I know you're working minimum wage, 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week, and you still don't have enough money to feed your kids. Sorry, my bad. I don't know what to tell you. But I'll tell you this: the government doesn't have the money to fund this food stamps business. I don't know what you're talking about. We don't have that money. We don't have it. I don't know. I looked at the budget. We don't have that money. Because you just gave it to the fucking rich. That's why we don't have the money. So they're going to do that. And they're going to do that with all different types of programs. These people are itching to. They always want to cut those programs. The food stamps. You need housing assistance because, like I said, you're working minimum wage and you don't 40, 50 hours a week, and you're still not making enough money to pay for rent or to buy a house. Well, fuck it. Housing and urban development just got their budget slashed. Because, again, tax cuts for the rich and billions of dollars. Actually, it's only Apple who has $250 billion overseas. But the last count of how much money corporations and the rich have in the U.S. have overseas is fucking ridiculous. I think it was $2.5 trillion. Trillion. I'm not talking about million. I'm not talking about billion. Trillions of dollars that is supposed to be going to help us to fund programs that we need, to fund universal health care, to fund universal college, to fund universal daycare. But whenever anybody brings that up, we don't have enough money. But it's fine for them to hide that overseas. If you're the mega rich in your corporations and you want a gigantic tax cut, yeah, we got the money for that too. That's fine. But anything else, you need it for the working class, you need it for the poor, you need it for the middle class. Fuck it, I don't know what you're talking about. We don't have the money. We don't have the money. So, and it's not just Apple. It is literally almost every corporation you can think of. They do the same thing. They're all nefarious just like this. They're all dubious just like this. They're all crooks just like this. Nike also spends millions of dollars on campaigns, millions of dollars lobbying politicians, bribing politicians, legally bribing politicians, because that's what those two things are. And they also get those gigantic tax cuts that Apple gets. That's part of the reason why they're bribing the politicians. That's part of it. But what else is there in that Nike could get out of it? Nike funds a lot of Republican politicians. People don't know that. People really do not know that. Nike funds a lot of Republican politicians. And the reason why they do that is so that they have a block on any legislation to raise the minimum wage. So that's why the Republicans hate the minimum wage so much. It is because they are bribed by corporations like Nike and Walmart and McDonald's who pay minimum wage or around minimum wage, and they don't want to pay their workers more. Because if there was a raise in the minimum wage, if it was raised from the unlivable $7.25 an hour, which is, I don't know how the fuck this isn't even a scandal. This is a scandal how the minimum wage is still $7.25. That is a scandal. And so if it was raised from that to $15 an hour, then they'd be forced to start paying their workers more. So that would cut into their revenue, and Republicans would make the argument, conservatives would make the argument, Oh, it's gonna bankrupt their companies. They're gonna go under. The CEOs are gonna go broke. Everybody's gonna go broke because they raise the wages on for their employees. One, so are you making the argument that we should permanently have a $7.25 minimum wage, even with inflation? Because I can guarantee you $7.25 20 years from now isn't going to be shit. It's not shit now. It's not going to be shit in 20 years. It's going to be even worse 20 years from now. So the argument that you can't raise taxes without, you can't raise the minimum, you can't raise workers' wages without bankrupting a company is fucking ridiculous. Because they, again, like I said, these are the richest companies in the world, richest companies in the history of the world. So if anybody has the money to pay workers a living wage, it's them. It would be them. And if you do the math, it's not anything crazy. It's not like it would take half their revenue to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't. But they don't care. They're greedy. They just want to get as much money as possible. If they couldn't get away with paying you less than the minimum wage, they would do that. They would do that, which is why some of them have sweatshops in countries like China and Thailand and India and places that allow it. If they had the opportunity to pay you $1 a day or $1 a week, they would do that. I guarantee you they would do that. They don't care about you at all. They just want to make the most money possible. To my last point, people will hear this and they will try to make the argument. They will try to portray me as some type of radical who is completely against capitalism, 100% against capitalism and corporations, and think they should be outlawed and the government should control everything. That isn't true at all. I do strongly believe in capitalism when it comes to consumer goods and consumer markets like that. But I believe in regulated capitalism. Because if it isn't regulated, then they do shit like this. Then they get to do shit like this. When there aren't enough regulations in place. When the government isn't watching out for you and trying to protect you from them. Then they get to do shit like this. So, I believe in capitalism and I believe it should be regulated. Because the system that we have now with money in politics, where corporations and millionaires and billionaires can donate unlimited amounts of money to politicians, it is at a breaking point. It's at a breaking point. Because now we don't even live in a democracy. Our elected representatives, they don't represent us. They don't pass laws for us. They're not looking out for us. They're looking out for their donors, the people who give them millions and millions of dollars. That's who they're looking out for. So this isn't a democracy. That's how an oligarchy functions. That's how Russia functions. The very rich, there's a class of very rich people at the top who make all the decisions, and they'd be damned if they listen to what the people of Russia said, the majority of people in Russia said. No, they don't give a shit about that. That's not what they're there for. They're there to enrich themselves. So people like to point at Russia and laugh at Russia. Aha, look at them, they're an oligarchy. But it's the same damn thing here in the US. We're an oligarchy. This is a plutocracy. This is a corporatocracy run by the rich and the corporations. So we need to get money out of politics because this is disgusting. I'm tired of seeing corporations get away with this type of shit, and way worse. And they would do way worse if they will if we continue this system the way it is. And by the way, I had to record this damn video like 4 or 5 times because the damn phone, the camera kept stopping in the middle of my recording. And I had to keep recording over and over again. And it's going to be choppy in the editing, but I don't give a shit.